Right off the bat, what a direct, man. Everything from cool new looking games to the main character of Nintendo's marketing efforts. It was all around a great direct in my opinion. And with the new direct, of course, came the second trailer of Tears of the Kingdom as marketing ramps up prior to its May release. So how about we ramp up this analysis video?
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
You'll get it. The trailer opens up with a view of a rainy Hyrule field. In the shot, you can see what seems to be Death Mountain in the background with a few red strands of malice seeping out of it. You can also see a reddish blob in the bottom left. Still quite unsure what this might be, but next to it you can see the same green scripture-like spiral that we've seen in previous trailers. These seem to be some sort of entrance or portal to something. Whether these are the portals to the Sky Islands or even to an underground map of Hyrule is yet to be seen, but that is my best bet on what these green magic spirals are. They're essentially portals or gates to other areas of the map, vertical wise. In the next shot, we're in an enemy base camp with what seem to be new enemies not seen in other games. Of course, we've had amphibian adjacent enemies, but none that basically look like a mesh between a dragon and a frog. Although this frog-like creature does resemble some of the other amphibian-like structures you can see in previous trailers in the Sky Islands. If they have some sort of connection is yet to be seen. However, this makes me extremely excited to see all the new enemies in Tears of the Kingdom, given that the enemy variety was severely lacking in Breath of the Wild. An interesting observation as well is the bokoblin in the background atop one of the wooden towers. It seems to be porting a single horn deviating from the bokoblin designs from Breath of the Wild. The next shot is rather interesting. First, we can see two towers with spotlights in the base of them. It's important to note that these are not the recognizable Sheikah towers from Breath of the Wild. Whether these are still Sheikah tech is yet to be seen, but further in the trailer we can see Sheikah tech in general is very much still prevalent in this game. Another interesting observation here is the glyph etched into the side of a hill, much like the greenish glowing one we saw in the previous trailer. My theory is that these glyphs are meant to mark the different areas in Hyrule, much like there was a divine beast per region. Their actual significance is yet to be known, given that we haven't seen much of these glyphs. But the biggest notable thing in this shot is the huge cyclone seen in the right hand side of the screen. This cyclone instantly brought me flashbacks of Skyward Sword's Thunderhead, which fueled my theory that Tears of the Kingdom will have strong themes of cycles and a looping storyline. We all know that the logo for Tears of the Kingdom is an Ouroboros, which is a circular symbol depicting a snake, or less commonly a dragon, swallowing its tail as an emblem of wholeness or infinity. Can this cyclone be the same as the Thunderhead seen in the sky in Skyward Sword? Does this mean that Tears of the Kingdom marks the end of the Zelda timeline and thus restarting it? We know from Skyward Sword that Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf and their descendants are destined to be in an endless loop of good and evil. So does this mean that Tears of the Kingdom will end and Skyward Sword story will begin? This theory is further cemented by the fact that now actual flying islands are part of the overworld in Tears of the Kingdom. This has yet to be seen, but it will be interesting what the main theme and conflict backstory is for this game. The next shot isn't too terribly revealing of anything, however we can see from above the same or a similar glyph as this previous shot etched onto the mountainside down below. The next shot is an interesting look into enemy behaviors that now extend to more than just sleeping or cooking when non-aggroed. We see a group of goblins actually mining for resources in what seems to be an underground cave given the stalactites in the background. This is an exciting sight given that the overworld enemies in Breath of the Wild's idle actions were limited to just walking or sitting around. I hope this means that we have yet to see even more of a variety of enemy weapons Link can use during his adventure. The setting of an underground cave makes me very excited to think that there is a whole other Hyrule underneath the overworld ready to explore. Here's to hoping we get a similar experience than we did, for example, in Elden Ring, discovering the underground areas, because let me tell you, That was an unforgettable experience, and I hope the Zelda team took note from that game. Before the next scene, we finally hear what I'd imagine is Ganondorf's voice, asking his servants to completely obliterate all of Hyrule and its allies and to leave no survivors. The man is basically asking for a complete genocide of Hyrule, and can I just say, the voice actor completely nailed it, to the point it actually frightened me. Also to note is that the voice actor for Ganondorf in the French version, the Japanese version, and the Latin American Spanish version are also just pure evil, and I love it. I love it. I love that we finally get another main character being actually voiced. After this scary introduction into what Ganondorf will probably sound like, we see Bridge of Hylia from an angle with Death Mountain and Hyrule Castle in the background. Interestingly enough, we also get a glimpse of a new enemy, a three-headed dragon, or more commonly known in the Zelda series as a Gleeok. At least that's what I'm thinking it is. This is very exciting given that now the roster of larger enemies has been expanded, and I'm just gonna say that it's gonna be very scary to see this enemy walking down towards you on a bridge, especially when you know you have to go through the bridge when first exploring the map. This is a nice addition since I feel there weren't many challenging enemies in the overworld, besides Lionel's, that the player had to defeat to advance the story or even as a side quest. It will be interesting to see if there will be more of these larger than average enemies in the overworld. The next shot shows an aerial view of Hateno village with the same spiral-like green portal seen at the very bottom. My theory is that these portals have now replaced where the shrines once were. The shot afterwards is a shot of Link staring towards the ever-present blood moon scene in Breath of the Wild. However, it seems that in this game it will play a bigger role. The next few shots are cut pretty quickly as the blood moon rises and intensifies its glow. We can see bits of malice fly across the air as this moon intensifies, signifying the revival of dead enemies. The next shot is an interesting one given that it's an explosion of some kind, but we can only see a silhouette inside it. The silhouette appears to be a Lionel, from what I can gather, before it disintegrates. Next, we get a glimpse of what appears to be a huge stone talus, leading me to believe that this will also form part of the roster of larger enemies. The next few shots are quickly cut to only show how fast the destruction of Hyrule is ramping up, and then we see an interesting scene of enemies' lifeless corpse floating down as they're reanimated once they're hit with the flying malice from the previous scene. This says to me that the Blood Moon and the themes of the living dead will play a huge role in Tears of the Kingdom. This theory is further supported by the next shot in which we can see a skeletal figure rise and stand up. This skeletal enemy closely resembles the Re-Dead from previous Zelda games, a zombie-like enemy that freezes anyone that may cross its path. I for one am very excited to see how many of these zombie-like enemies will be part of the world. In the background, we also see some new variations of other common enemies we encountered in Breath of the Wild, including new additions such as this large bokoblin. The next shot shows Link riding along on his horse as we see a floating Hyrule castle in the background as well as the cyclone from previous scenes. Then we see a faraway shot of a gorge with what seems to be Mojuga rampaging about the sandy floor. My hope for this is that we will continue to see bigger and more prominent enemies in the overworld that will not just be limited to where we saw them in Breath of the Wild. For example, Mojuga was only seen in the Gerudo Desert. I hope that we get to see this Mojuga, or at least a variation of it, in other areas like the Snowy Mountains. The next shot, we can finally see Sheikah Tech with the word transport written on the platform Link is standing on. Something to note here is that it seems that Link is in the towers we saw in one of the initial shots with the spotlights underneath it. Does this machine mean that these towers will work as transport points to go from the overworld to the underworld? Does this mean these towers are the only entry points to the underground caves we've seen in previous shots? A lot can be theorized from this shot on what this Sheikah Tech does, but I'm for one excited to see what the meaning and function of these transport platforms really are. In the next shot, we see a group of bokoblins attacking in unison, being commandeered by the larger bokoblin in the back that we saw in a previous shot. This excites me a lot, as it seems that enemy AI will be a lot more advanced and coordinated when it comes to attacks. Attacking in groups rather than individually will definitely up the challenge when it comes to trying to clear out enemy camps. After this, we see Link running away from a Hinox with a wooden log stuck on its head. I'm excited to see what the meaning of this is and why the variation in designs is significant. In the next shot, we finally get to see a Hyrule that's not drenched in the red hue of the Blood Moon as Link descends with his iconic sailcloth onto the world. The next shot shows Link running across a field with what seems to be a new graphical upgrade in the grass. You can see the wind actually blowing through the blades of tall grass, which makes this scene look way more majestic. I love this sort of effect, this visual effect on games such as Ghost of Tsushima. If you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima and you're a Zelda fan, you will thoroughly enjoy Ghost of Tsushima. Also, I did a analysis / review on the game, so if you want to check that out, link is up here. The next shot shows an enemy joint effort we haven't seen since the Wind Waker days, a flying enemy carrying a land enemy. This can prove to be very beneficial in the variety of enemy scenarios one will find themselves when traversing the world. The next shot shows a variation of the same enemies we've seen before, but after that, we get to see a unique enemy. An enemy made from apparently nothing but blocks. The carvings on the enemy resemble somewhat the same as the Zonai ruins. Definitely some magic involved in the creation or the nature of this enemy. So I'm very glad finally that magic is having a return to the Zelda series in a more prominent way. The next 4 shots are quick cuts showing the mummified corpse of what's believed to be Ganondorf. The first shot shows a close-up of the corpse and what seems to be a struggle. We can see a lesion in its chest with Malice, which makes me believe this is the point in which Malice takes over the corpse and revives itself. Again, playing heavy into the theme of the re-dead waking up from the, well, dead. The next shot is a shot of Hyrule Castle floating with the Malice seeping out from underneath, which can allude that this corpse was definitely being held underneath somewhere in the castle. And then the next 2 shots show further close-ups of Ganondorf's corpse being reanimated. If you haven't seen my previous Zelda theory videos, I think that the tears in the name Tears of the Kingdom are referring to the uncovering of all the wrongdoings that the royal family has been responsible for ages, like the torture of its enemies underneath Hyrule Castle or Kakariko Village. Maybe this corpse was held in a dungeon in one of these dungeons below Hyrule. Maybe this corpse was being used for its malice as a source of energy for the Sheikah tech that the Hyrule Kingdom uncovered and used as guardians. What if this means that now that Ganondorf has been reanimated, Hyrule is finally gonna reap what it's been sowing? Thus, the tears or the regrets of the kingdom. We then hear Zelda's voice saying she's unsure Link can overcome this enemy, which is a complete contrast of attitude she had towards Link in the first game, in which she had completely entrusted him with the responsibility of saving Hyrule. Which obviously, Link being the fearless devil then jumps off one of the sky islands, which I thought was very hilarious, just the contrast of what Zelda is saying and then what Link does. This shot of Link free falling lets us know that there will be no transition or loading between traversal between the sky islands and the ground below, which just completely opens up the world in a way I didn't think was possible. In the next shot, we see an open field with another glyph etched on the side of a hill. However, this time it's not glowing like previous shots. Do these glyphs only glow during times of trouble, such as the blood moon rising? Does it signify a time before the main plot? The next shot shows Link shooting an arrow with a sphere for an arrowhead. What makes this very interesting is that the arrowhead seems to be a homing device, as you can see the arrow change course and hit the enemy head on, which hopefully solidifies my theory that there will be crafting of some sort. The next shot shows Link riding on his shield on some cart rails, which sounds as exciting as I hope it would have been. The next shot shows people's favorite motion control puzzles are still a part of this game. No one is safe from these puzzles, not even in the Sky Islands. The next shot shows Link wielding a new kind of weapon and using it to attack a stone talus. This new weapon is very similar to the one we had seen in the first trailer, in the same way that it seems to be using sonai magic of some kind. Another thing I can theorize is that this weapon might be a crafted weapon or combination of two weapons. Crafting weapons is something I've been asking from the sequel to Breath of the Wild for a long time. Imagine the joy of just experimenting by throwing in a ruby stone, throwing in some iron ore, and getting a sick ass red fiery blade, and all through luck of your own curiosity? Boom, bam. That would make me rock hard. No pun intended. So I'm hoping this weapon is an indication of that ability, given that it seems to be a combination of a long weapon and a cannon of some sort. The next two shots seem to show what is believed to be the goddess Hylia extending her arm to greet Link and his corrupted arm. The fact that this may very well be Hylia further strengthens the theory that this may be the end of the Zelda timeline and the restarting into Skyward Sword, given the big role that Hylia plays in the story of Skyward Sword. Hylia can be seen sporting a white dress with what seems to be like jewelry in a style that seems to be Zonai inspired. The next shot is one of a hopeful Link after shaking hands with this goddess-like person or being. The next few shots show us what seems to be a new mechanic in the game. First, we see Link using his arm to pull out what seems to be a stone wheel out of a tar-like lake. The next shot shows Link riding on a makeshift cart being powered by what seems to be Zonai magic. This makeshift cart is being held together by some green glue-like substance, which it may indicate that the player will be able to build these mechanical inventions on their own, which many people have compared to the infamous game Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. The next shot shows a flying balloon basket being glued together with the same green glue substance. And the last shot shows a platform being lifted by 4 propellers, again glued by the green gluey substance. I'm excited for this because it opens up so many opportunities for so many cool inventions for the player to make. I feel like Nintendo saw the crazy glitches players were able to create in Breath of the Wild that they decided to implement a way for players to further explore the world of Hyrule. The logo shot shows Link riding on a field with a piece of the Sky Island seemingly falling from above. It's important to recall that Link rode one of these falling pieces to go up into the Sky Islands in one of the previous trailers. We then see the logo appear with its famous Ouroboros thematic. Then we cut to a stream of malice aggressively spurt out towards Link, which he then turns holding onto his corrupted arm, which seems to be just recently harmed in some way that caused it to look previous to its green glowing nature. We then see Link jump and reach towards Zelda as she's falling into what I believe is the same abyss we see her fall on the E3 2019 trailer. However, interestingly enough, we hear Zelda say,
"Please, lend him your power,"
which seems to indicate she is asking Hylia to give Link some of her power, which can be in reference to the scene we saw previously of Hylia shaking Link's corrupted hand. We then cut to the release date and can faintly hear Zelda's lullaby be played in the background. In conclusion, this trailer gave me more questions than answers. Will Hylia make an appearance finally in the series? Is this actually the transformation of Ganondorf back into Demise from Skyward Sword? Are the Sky Islands these same islands that we live on in Skyward Sword? Is this Hyrule the ancestors they speak of in Skyward Sword that lived on the surface? Is this the end and the restart of the Zelda timeline? Is the Ouroboros logo an indication of that? All of this and much more will only be known until the game gets here. However, I do want to give some personal thoughts on the trailer. I love the trailer. I love that it was very heavily gameplay based, not a lot of cutscenes being shown, and I also like that they are now showing some of the more unique elements that will differentiate this game from the previous game. Of course, the crafting, I hope the crafting is, what I theorize in this video. You can create your own transportation of some kind. You can also hopefully create your own weapons and make a combination of different weapons, which I think just opens up a world of possibilities for battling. I was pretty indifferent when it came to the weapon duration, gimmick, whatever you may call it. with weapons breaking. So I hope that this crafting also allows you to fix weapons so they don't break, thus making it a lot easier for you to keep the weapons that are your favorite. Now, I'm not too hopeful that this is the case, because I believe that the developers made it so weapons would break easily, so the player would have to experiment with a bunch of different weapons in the game, and to not make the gameplay feel very stale. But you let me know what you think about this trailer down in the comments below. What are some of your theories after we got the second trailer for Tears of the Kingdom? Please let me know down in the comments below. But folks, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down, because believe it or not, every single bit helps. Links to my socials are down below. Please make sure to follow me on Twitter, where I spend most of my waking hours discussing anime, TV, movies, gaming, sneakers, as you can see. So yeah, make sure to follow me on Twitter, which I'm probably on Twitter as you're watching this video. Also, make sure to join our Discord server, where we talk anything and everything, or anything that might interest you as my viewer. Please take care of each other, but most importantly, take care of yourself. Tears of the Kingdom cannot get here fast enough. I am so excited, and I'm more excited to see some of y'all's theories down in the comments below. All right, peace.